Hello, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Fantasy Results Show. I am your host, JBlaze39, brought to you by DailyDraftAnalysis.com, and it's your one-stop shop for all your NFL needs. We got projections, we got all kinds of insight and news, up-to-date injury reports, rankings, and that are ranked, one of the most accurate out there. So, not to mention, this podcast that I break, what we do on this podcast. I break down every game and from just a common sense approach and tournament style viewpoint. I'll throw in some, cash plays or what I like out there. So I'll tell you some strategy and how to approach these slates and tournaments, because each tournament has its own style, and you got to know how to attack it in order to be successful with it. And that's what we do. We like to, produce results. That's why it's called the Fantasy Results Show. So some of our members are having some great success with this, increasing their overall scores, and I'm thankful for that, and I'm glad it's that my members are getting benefit, are getting results from it, from the content and the stuff I'm working on and trying to install. I come at this as a different style, and I don't get hung up on all the stats, and there are some stats that are telling, but there's some, just by watching the games, just by knowing what's going on, and you can tell get a feel for what's happening out there. Now, I'll tell you where the kind of my favorite matchups that I'm looking at, focusing on, and some of it's because people are going to be off of those games, but they are still higher probability of producing some good fantasy stats. So, and that's what we're all here for. So, there's a lot of chatter out there about people. Some people just look at the highest total, and they just go for that game or a couple of games. Doesn't always work that way. So it's, sometimes when it seems too good to be true, it usually is. So, let's get started. It's our first game is Detroit visiting Chicago. The over-under started out at 44, and 3-point favorite by Detroit. It has since come down to 41 for a total. There's a couple things. I'm not a huge fan of this game. It's a rival. It's a division game, and there are going to be some weather concerns in Chicago. So keep an eye on that, especially with the passing game on both sides. Over the last three games, Matthew Stafford has only thrown for 1 or 0 touchdowns in each of those games against the Bears. And he has yet to go over 250 yards. I mean, that's kind of telling, to me. But that's the most recent stats. I mean, that's what you gotta kind of go by. So, the only thing I'll say about this one is there's a couple guys I like. I like Howard from the Bears, and I also like Dontrell Inman from the Bears. He's cheap. He's one of my favorite punt plays this week. He's getting the targets. Trubisky is finding him. The only problem is he might get the Darius Slay treatment, which is never a good thing because Slay is Detroit's best defender. Oh, excuse me. Trubisky could be a sneaky. If the weather holds out, Trubisky could be a sneaky GPP play. Oh my goodness! And pair him up with Inman, and then maybe with Howard in there, so you get all their touchdowns. I don't see this as a very high scoring game, but weird things happen in these division games. So no, scratch that. Don't go with Trubisky. There's only 2 guys to go here. Howard and Inman. On Detroit side, the only guy you can go with is maybe Tate or Riddick. I'm not choosing anybody else. Maybe Chicago defense. So, that could be a way to go too. Next game is one of my favorites, actually. There's let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4 games I can see as being a shootout potential. And this next one is one of them. And you wouldn't think it would be, because you got the Kansas City Chiefs going into New York to face the Giants. Kansas City started off favored by 13. And now that has went down to -10. Also, the point total has went up from 43.5 to 45.5. To me, that's pretty telling, actually. That makes my antenna go up. That's and there might be a number of guys in play here. The chalkiest play that's everybody is talking about this in the industry, and that is Kareem Hunt. There's a lot of people that are touting Kareem Hunt. I like it. I'm not discrediting it. I just temper your expectations, because it just seems too good to be true. And on the road. The point total. Point total's gone up. There's going to be some offense here because the Giants the last 2 weeks have been scoring points. Manning is starting to heat up, and his weapons are Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram, and maybe even that Darkwa, the running back. So the guys that way I can approach this game is, and you can save a lot of salary with this, is take Eli Manning and pair him up with Shepard and Ingram. And I say Ingram because he's going to be a good alternative to the Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski. In tournaments, that could be a difference. That ownership difference. And if Manning and him connect, that's, you may have something there. Because nobody is going to be on these two. Because of all the attention they're being focused elsewhere. So that could be an important part here. Now on Kansas City side, what you could do, and I don't recommend this all the time, but in certain, depends on your roster construction, but this week, you could theoretically put Kelce in the flex position, and have both of them, in play. Or you could go Tyreek Hill. Or if this game turns into a shootout, which I think it might, you could go with Chakantrik West. He's the guy that they lean on when they're falling behind. He kind of snipes some touchdowns from Hunt. So that could be an interesting GPP play. So, I do like Shepard a lot. He's getting the targets. So, what you could, also just have a double stack with Manning and Shepard and Ingram, and then come back with either Kelce or Hill, depending on how much salary you got, or maybe Hill or Kelce and West. That could also work. So, if you're building up multiple lineups, hey, give it a shot. What do you got to lose? Those kind of stacks, seem to be winning the millionaire makers. So, and nobody's going to be on this game. So, the more I think of it, I would say load up on this one. Moving on, the next game is Tampa Bay at Miami. Now, these are two teams that we're supposed to play in week 1, but they got, it got moved back to here because of that hurricane. Now the point total is 40.5. Actually, it started off at 40.5. It's now 41.5. And it started off Miami, -3, favored by 3. Now it's a pick'em. That means some of this, the money is moving over towards Tampa Bay side. I'll keep this nice and simple. I'm going to avoid this mostly, but I'm going to take pieces of it. I'm gonna take Mike Evans, maybe Adam Humphries, and then on Miami side, you can go Kenyon Drake. Not in cash, but in GPPs. And then Miami defense. Now, I wouldn't use those in the same lineup. Other than Drake and Miami defense. But, I don't like either quarterback. There's a lot of people that are touting Jay Cutler in this game. I'm not feeling it. I don't like it. I think it's a trap. I think too many people are getting hung up on the Tampa Bay defense being so lousy that anybody can score. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing that. I could be wrong, but that's my gut feeling, and that's what I'm feeling. Let's move on. Next game is Baltimore Ravens going into Green Bay. Right now, Baltimore is favored by 2 and point total of 38. There's only 2 plays in this game. Baltimore defense and the running back, Alex Collins for the Ravens. Otherwise, I'm not touching this. Maybe Danny Woodhead. Maybe Ben Watson for a cheap tight end. Maybe Adams for the Packers. That's it. I'm not touching anything else. So that's all I got for that game. I'm not touching anything else. It's mostly a fade for me. So it's going to be a sloppy game. So there's better matchups out there. So now the next game on the slate is probably my favorite one to stack on both sides. And I'm going to hedge this game. This game is the LA Rams going into Minnesota to face the Vikings. Now, I'm going to build 2 lineups with this. The first one, and I'm going to have this as a shootout. The point total is 46. Or started off at 46. It's went down to 45.5. Yeah, that's nothing. Minnesota's favored by 2.5. What I'm going to do on it, what I recommend doing on this one is I'm taking Jared Goff, pairing up with Sammy Watkins, and then what's his name? I could see Tavon Austin doing a gimmick play for some points. A little bit of razzle dazzle. It's very risky. But in a GPP, this could work. And then on Minnesota side, you come back with Adam Thielen and maybe Kyle Rudolph for a touchdown. There's some talk of Jerick McKinnon. I like it. If I'm gonna play this, actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play 3 lineups. I'm gonna go Minnesota, Jared Goff and his receivers. Meaning Gurley, and Watkins, possibly Cooper Kupp or Tavon Austin. I'm not touching Robert Woods this week because he's going to be getting the Xavier Rhodes treatment. So I'm off of that. But the secondary guys can do some damage here. And then I'm gonna come back with Thielen and maybe Diggs, but more so Thielen. And then in the second lineup, I'm going Minnesota defense and the Thielen and Murray, Latavius Murray, and that's the way I'll load up on that. But then on the third way of doing this is doing Case Keenum, Adam Thielen, and Jerick McKinnon, and then coming back with Cooper Kupp or Sammy Watkins. Robert Woods, I mean, he's going to get targets. I just don't see him doing a whole lot. But in a GPP, he could. So in a scenario, you could. I don't think this is going to happen. That's why I'm mentioning the secondary receivers. But that's the way I would approach it. This is only if you're going to do multiple lineups. I would stack this game in various ways. Because I haven't heard. There's a lot of indecision or a lot of questions regarding this game by some of the pros out there. So that's an advantage. That's a thing to take advantage of. So, all right, moving on. We got. Wow. Okay, we got Arizona going into Houston. Now, there's been a big shift in this game. It started off at 45.5, and Arizona was favored by 1.5. It is now down as far as total points of 37.5, and now Houston's favored by 2. And all that happened was that Arizona was deciding to go with Blaine Gabbert instead of Drew Stanton for their quarterback. Wow, I don't think it warrants that big of a jump or that big of a drop. But what that's telling me is Vegas is saying that Houston's going to win and Arizona's not going to do nothing. I disagree. I think Houston's gonna win, but I don't think it's gonna drop as much as it did. In a GPP, you could use here's a stack I'm gonna throw out for you. Blaine Gabbert and Bruce Ellington. People listening to this are like, who's that? Well, he's a receiver he's like a third string receiver. And he's been getting more and more snaps lately. And in a off the wall like a millionaire maker type of stack, you could go Blaine Gabbert and Bruce Ellington and come back with Hopkins and Lamar Miller. That way, you're going to have a lot of money to play around with to fill in the rest of your roster. Namely, you can get a piece of the Minnesota game, you can get a piece of the New England game, you can get a piece of the New Orleans game. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not touching Tom Savage. So, also, the other side of this is what Vegas is telling me is that to play Houston defense and Lamar Miller. In theory, I can see that. Obviously, Larry Fitzgerald is in the mix too. He's still getting targets. So, anyway, let's move on. We got 2 games left in the 1 o'clock games. The next one is going to be nice and short. Jacksonville going to Cleveland. Jacksonville's favored by 7.5. Point total of 37. I mean. The only players I could see here are Duke Johnson for Cleveland in catch-up mode, and Dede Westbrook from the Jacksonville. Maybe even hate to say this, but Blake Bortles for a really contrarian GPP stack of with quarterback. Also, if you're gonna go Bortles and Westbrook, might even throw in Mercedes Lewis for tight end, and then also come back with Duke Johnson. So, the weather is going to be an issue here too. Keep an eye on that. I don't like Leonard Fournette this week. So, I think there's other areas you can go. All right, now the next game is going to be Washington Redskins going into the Superdome to face the Saints. Saints are favored by 8. over under 51.5. This is one of my other favorites for a shootout. And I don't think it's the reason a lot of people are thinking. I think this is the game that Drew Brees lights it up. And his benefactor is going to be well, it's not Michael Thomas. Even though he gets targets, I don't see him getting a lot of production out of it. What I see is possibly a Brandon Coleman, or a Kamara, or Teddy Ginn getting most of the work for the Saints. A lot of people are going to be on Mark Ingram. And yeah, you could use them. You could use both of them in the same lineup with Drew Brees. That way you're getting a piece of every touchdown. That could be a way to go. And then throw in Chris Thompson on the other side as your pass catching back. That could work. I mean, I could say to go with Josh Dotson or Jamison Crowder. If I had to choose between the two, it's going to be Crowder. Dotson gets the big play. But maybe what they need is to take that shot down the field. And Dotson provides that. So, if you want to save some money and they might be playing from behind, you could go Kirk Cousins and pair him up with Chris Thompson and Vernon Davis. So, that's one idea. So, that's the way I would go. So, let's take a short break, and then I'll come back and then we'll talk about the 4 o'clock games. Welcome back to the Fantasy Results Show. I am in JBlaze39, and you can find me on Twitter at JBlaze39. And we're brought to you by DailyDraftAnalysis.com. Again, DailyDraftAnalysis.com is the site. And there's all kinds of content in there, and rankings and all kinds of good bankroll management articles and strategy podcasts that are archived in there. Let's move to the 4 o'clock games. The first one is Cincinnati going into Denver. Started off at 40 point total. It has dropped down to 38.5. And the spread went from 3 down to 2.5 for Denver. There's two good defenses here. I'm probably going to lean on the Denver defense on this one. I I see this one as just a very underwhelming game. It might be a good defensive battle. It could be a 18-15 type of game. Battle of field goals. If you want field goals and you play on FanDuel, I think here's some of your kickers right here. On both sides. AJ Green going up against Denver. He, in some ways, he's matchup proof. He's going to get targets. I'm not feeling it. For what he, for his salary, what he needs to produce, I just don't see it. So on the other side, it's all about Emmanuel Sanders, Demetrius Thomas, or whatever. How is it? Thomas, DT. I don't like them either. I like Sanders better. But I don't like Mixon. I don't like. I just like. I guess if you want to go, C.J. Anderson, and Denver defense, that's all I got for that one. I don't know how high the point total will be for the defenses on this one, but it could be just a low scoring game. So, all right, let's go from basically a know-nothing game to the one that everybody's talking about. It's the New England Patriots playing Oakland, and they're actually going to Mexico City to play this game. Technically, Oakland is the home team on this. The point total has went from 50 to 54.5. New England's went favored from 5.5 up to 7.5. Now, there's going to be a lot of people on this. This is going to be your chalk type game. There's going to be people loading up on this. So you're going to want some pieces of this. And you could stack it up. And then you could stack this game up and then go contrarian on some of the others I named off. So that could be, whatever fits in there. But because you're going to use up a lot of salary on this game. Now, what I see happening is New England's going to blow them out. They're going to put a 40 spot on Oakland easy. How are they going to do it? Well, I think they're going to. Tom Brady is probably one of my favorite quarterbacks for this week, especially for cash. And then who is he going to throw to? Well, there's a lot of people talking about Brandon Cooks. I could see that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pair him up with Gronkowski. And okay. I'm going to pair him up with Gronkowski, and then I'm going to go with Burkhead, Rex Burkhead. Burkhead is cheap on DraftKings. $3,600. It's like a free square. Problem is, a lot of people are going to be on it. If you can afford it, to differentiate yourself, you could go Dion Lewis. Just in case Burkhead duds. Which is possible. Anything's possible. One thing I will say about the history of the millionaire makers on DraftKings. There's been 75 of them now. They're advertising it. And they showed some stats that of who has been in the most millionaire maker winning lineups. And the highest is Rob Gronkowski. He's been in 12 of the 75 millionaire maker top lineups. That's a 16% rate of being in that top spot. It might not seem like a lot. That's huge. Think about that for a second. A lot of people are scared, to play Gronkowski because of the high salary, and for good reason. And in this case, I'm stacking him up. I'm playing him. I'm playing him with Tom Brady. On the other side, we got Derek Carr is in play. New England does give up yards. And there could be some garbage time or catch-up mode type of scenarios. And pair him up with Jared Cook or Crabtree or Cooper. You can get really creative with this on your stacks. Another potential stack is Marshawn Lynch getting in there somehow. And he can catch the ball a little bit. Maybe throw him a wrinkle and have him catching the ball. Or Jalen Richard. He's kind of the change of pace back for the Raiders. And he could be in play as the catch-up mode type back. Big play. So, however you want to stack it. Danny Amendola, I'm not liking it. So that's the way I would go. Next game is the primetime game. On Sunday night, it's it's going to be a good one. After all the dust is settled and you're collecting your $1 million, for the daytime, it was playing the nighttime games, primetime. Well, you got Philadelphia going into Dallas. Philadelphia opened up 3-point favorites on the road. Now they're 6-point favorites. Why, I don't know. What I'm going to do with this one is I'm taking Wentz. I'm taking Ertz. And maybe a Corey Clement as the pass catcher. And maybe Nelson Aguilar. mix and match those guys, however you want to do it. And then on Dallas side, I think Dak Prescott's going to be in for a long afternoon or evening. So, I think what he could do is do a lot of dump-off passes to Rod Smith, and help out his offensive line by doing the screens to take away some of the speed rushers that are going to be really coming at Dak, because that offensive line is really hurting right now with the loss of Tyrod Smith. So that's the only two plays I really like in this is for Dallas is Dak and Rod Smith. I think Philadelphia's defense is in play. I think this is going to be a blowout. Philadelphia is good. So yeah, that's all I got on that one. Now, our last game here is on Monday night, Atlanta going into Seattle. There's some news that just took place. Now, Seattle's defense is already hurting. They already lost Richard Sherman, and now they just lost Cam Chancellor for the season. He's kind of the quarterback of that defense. What I see happening here is Atlanta going in and tearing them up. This could be a shootout also. Because Russell Wilson's going to try to keep up. But Atlanta, they don't have Dante Freeman. But, he's recovering. And Julio Jones is going to be very low owned. I like going after Julio Jones this week, and stacking with Matt Ryan, and then go on the other side with Baldwin and maybe Paul Richardson, maybe Jimmy Graham. I'm not touching the running game for Seattle, other than maybe McKissick as a little scat back, hurry up kind. But the other names, you could go with Hooper. Hooper could, be some sneakiness to him. And then, yeah, that's all I got for this game. So, I want to thank you for listening, and let's go make some money. And I hope this podcast helps. And if you have any questions, just feel free to send me an email at jblaze39@dailydraftanalysis.com, or hit me send me a tweet on at jblaze39. Thank you, and you have a wonderful week. Thanks.